Greetings everyone, welcome back to Top Tier Arcade. My name is Steve, and I'm with my buddy Kevin here, and this is going to be the 10-year anniversary of me being in the arcade and pinball hobby. And my buddy Scott has lent us the backdrop to his place. As you can tell, there's a lot of great games and a great environment. The reason I'm making the video is because 10 years has passed already, and since 2012, April 24th to be exact, I started in the hobby. Miss Pac-Man was my first game that I got. And before I get to how it started, I'm going to reverse. Technically, I started collecting in 05. And when I used to wrestle, I was in Warren, Michigan. And I ended up buying a slot machine, a Pachinko slot machine, which if you check my archives are there. And I did a review on that and explaining how it came to be. In a nutshell, I used to wrestle. I was in Michigan State the whole time, often every weekend. And I saw a couple of games that were there, you know, in a variety store. And I ended up getting it for like 300 American back in 05. And I said to myself, I want to create an ultimate game room that has video games and whatever, but that's later in the future. Fast forward to February of 2012, and I go to a party, and a friend's friend, so my wife's friend, had, you know, their buddies there. We were talking. I was looking at this club, and it had a really cool bar. And I really loved how they had the ambiance and the light behind the bar, and it really kind of lit it up like a flame. And I was sitting there looking at it, studying the measurements for my future arcade. Well, up came to me a guy named Edward, who was a friend of a friend, and he's like, "Hey Steve, I have these games at home too. Here's my collection." And I'm like, "Wait, you can own these things?" He goes, "Yeah, let's go sit down and I'll show you." So we're shooting the shit the whole time. So I can't remember whose birthday it was. And the whole time I was so enthralled at how he's already in the hobby. And he told me, I find these on Kijiji or through the Canadian forums for things. I couldn't believe this existed. So the reason why Kevin is with me, and thanks for coming, Kev, is my vision was not only to create Top Tier, which eventually will happen, but have all the games together instead of fragmented. And also have Edward, the guy that got me into the hobby, be introduced. Now, I hate to tell you, but 6 months ago, Edward, which is now Kevin's uncle, his nephew, is here with me. Now, it turns out, small world, that Edward's nephew, Kevin, was also in the hobby. And when word got around that I started collecting these things, because Miss Pac-Man was my first in 2012, he was like, "Hey, my nephew's into this too." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And it turns out where I came to play, Kevin was there. So Kevin, I know that Edward had a profound effect on myself collecting and into this crazy hobby. And thanks for taking the time. I know it's emotional because Edward unfortunately passed 6 months ago suddenly, which is heartbreaking. Did you get into the hobby before him, or did he get you into it?
So we both got into it at the same time. You know, I took the initiative to say, "Hey, I think we can buy these." We always had a thing where we were looking and contemplated. We're like, "Yeah, we can own these." And we're like, "Where are we gonna put it though?" Eventually, we took the plunge by the Player One auction.
Yeah.
You know, that was the first thing that we checked out. And he got his Suzuki 8-hour.
Oh, the riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I bought a Virtual-On arcade dual cab.
Where'd you put it? That's fucking huge.
I know.
That's a sick cabinet, man.
It was $100, and I was like, "Oh, that's so awesome!" It's like the cost of a video game.
Yeah.
How could I say no? But yeah, where do you put it? I had it at my workshop, and that's where I played it. And so, you know, we bought it at the same time, and we're like, okay, I guess it is possible to own arcades. And, you know, then we slowly went from there. We started looking more, because then, you know, you're like, okay, this can fit in a home setting. You know, and then from there, then I was like, you know what, but I want pinball. Right? And that's when the hobby really blew up for us. It was like, oh, okay. Start buying pinball machines and meeting other collectors. So, you know, it's been a fun adventure and journey, and that's how we connected.
That's right.
And then that's how full circle, then it's like, "Hey, you know my uncle." I think it was because of Teresa.
Yeah.
And Mike Wong.
Yeah.
Because then she was like, "Oh, my nephew knows Mike Wong." And you're like, "No, I know Mike Wong."
Yeah, that's right.
And we're like, "No, you don't know Mike Wong. You're talking about a different Mike Wong."
Right. The other Asian. Because you guys are confused, right? Because glasses in Chinese is, yeah.
Most people in the beginning, you know, when I started in the hobby, they kept thinking I was Mike Wong.
Right.
you know, because, you know, same kind of thing, aging with glasses. Even though he's taller than me, though. But, yeah, it's been fun.
So you've been in it now probably 12 years, right? 2010-ish?
Yep. Yeah, 2010. I would say, yeah. That's when we first got it. You know, but before that, we would always just look at the auctions and the prices. And I have earlier pricings from different companies. And it's like, shit, man, I should have bought back then when the pinball machines were like $1,000 to $1,500.
Everyone says, yeah.
But I was just like, I can't do it. I have nowhere to put it. I don't even know what a pinball machine looked like. The first time I walked up to it, I said, holy shit, I can't take that. And I walked away from the game.
It's a different time. Yeah, but like when I first got into it, I've told the story at the very beginning of my channel, and it's in my archives. When I first got this Pac-Man, Mary, my wife, was asleep, and the Italian guy I bought it from dropped it off with his couple of Goomba buddies, and we were talking. He goes, "Oh, you're pretty good." And I'm like, "Yeah," and he dropped it off, and Mary's still asleep, and she woke up like, oh, "What the hell is going on?" And all Pac-Man was there, and it was gonna be. And my wife was Mary, and you know Mary. She's like, "Hey, this is gonna be cool. It's a known game. Women like it, men like it, kids like it. It's easy to play. Conversation piece in the living room."
Yep.
Then I'm like, well, okay. And then Edward's like, what else is online? And I'm like, oh, well, I have to have Street Fighter. It's my favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
Well, then I have to have Mortal Kombat beside it. Well, then I have to have Double Dragon. And then it was a disease. Anyone that's watching this and thinks that, you know, there's never enough room or never enough money, you will always find room and money. Always. Not only that, but they're addicting. No one understands. I know a buddy of mine that got into it. He's like, I'm going to get just one. Okay. And I'm like, just get ready when the second one. He goes, what are you talking about? 6 months later, he bought another 3. And now he has 12. So it continues, and what a crazy hobby it's been. Now, I can get into the stories and the lineage, but really, I wanted to honor you and your uncle, because really it should have been him, and I thank you for being here. And so unfortunate, we lost him so early, and it was sad, even at his funeral when we went, it was terrifying, in a sense that anything can happen anytime. But thank you for honoring him. We're going to now cut away of how I progressed in my collection. Now, you've played some of my games. Eventually, you're going to play them all when I get everything set up. So the next shot we're going to do is, I'm going to do a montage with my voice over it, counting what year it is and what games I bought in the year, and a quick story about what happened and how I got the game. And then later on, I'm going to finish it off maybe with a cigar at the apartment, and the future of Top Tier, the future of my collecting, and also what I have in store in the coming months and years. So we're going to cut to that. Kevin, thanks again for joining me. It's a pleasure. I hope to have you one day doing these videos again, hopefully in my 15th year, and we'll have my own arcade, and not even sooner. So thank you again. So here's how it all started. Back in 2005, in my journey and the seed that was planted to continue to make my game room. On a whim in Warren, Michigan in 2005, I was coming back from a wrestling show, and we stopped in just to grab snacks and food for the road, and I saw this couple of slot machines, and I saw one with Antonio Inoki, and I thought, you know what, I think it was $300, that was American. It fit in my Toyota Corolla's trunk with a couple of wrestlers in the back. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna buy it. We had a shitty match, and I'm like, you know what, let's just celebrate with something kind of cool. And I thought, you know what, Antonio Inoki, because I wrestled at the time, he's the Vince McMahon of New Japan, which I've watched over the years, even when I used to wrestle. You know, he fought Muhammad Ali. He's, you know, he's very iconic, especially overseas. I thought it'd be cool to have, and that's what started. I thought, hey, this would be a good talking point once I get my actual arcade. And, you know, we moved then to 2012, which I pick up my Miss Pac-Man after getting advice like you just heard with Kevin and I about his uncle Edward, that got me into it and said, check Kijiji, that's where I get my games. And ended up getting Miss Pac-Man. He was a cool talking piece. My wife and I played it. A few family members and friends that came over really liked it. And then, you know, one night I'm like, hey, what else is out there? And then I see a Street Fighter 2C Champion Edition, which you see here. And Street Fighter, I would say overall, just to answer the question, is my favorite game of all time. in all of arcades, so I had to have it. My brother Mike, who's now not with us anymore, taught us, and it was something that I've always really loved because it's been in my blood for years, and my family and friends, so I had to get that. And I was like, okay, and then I'm like, oh my god, there's a Mortal Kombat, and I'm like, well, they have to be side to side because Mortal Kombat also has a huge impact on our childhood and just overall arcades itself, with the fatalities creating the ratings now for video games, so a lot of history there. And I'm like, okay, Mortal Kombat, and that's 2012, so a pretty good year. Then we entered 2013, and I thought to myself, what's a game that I remember playing, you know, just to change up the collection a bit, and I think Double Dragon just stuck out to me. Cool music, intro, I remember playing it in 87 when I was 7 years old. I still remember the arcade. I was there, it was new, it was right in the window so everyone can see it. There was a line about the door, people were smoking cigarettes in and out and whatever else. It was just so cool, badass music like I said, and just a fun beat 'em up, and very iconic because it was a trailblazer for a lot of beat 'em ups to come. So then this is the only game for now that I've ever imported from the United States. Made a deal with a guy who was a very kind man, very religious man, and said it's going to a good home with my memories when we explained why I wanted it. So really cool. Can't wait to play it again. Right now it's being stored. Next is 2014. This is where the hobby changed from I'm gonna have a few of my iconic games to I think I'm gonna really create an arcade. And it makes sense because, again, I've made all of these archived in my channel. If you want to look at the my other games and videos, you'll see a lot of history. And long story short, I was at a bowling alley and I was leaning on a game that had Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, but in a very weird cabinet. And I was still new to the hobby, and I went online on Clove and I asked questions. I'm like, guys, what is this? And one guy chimed in, is like, oh my god, Steve, get that game now. And I'm like, why? They go, I think that's a Street Fighter 1 that's super impossible to find. I'm like, what? So, long story, if you really want to hear a crazy pickup story, it's a bit long. Check out my Street Fighter 1 pickup. It's honestly a crazy, crazy story. And what happened was, it ended up being a Street Fighter 1. And the significance was, the reason I didn't want to get all the Street Fighters and all the games is because I knew I'm a very OCD guy, and if I don't get all of the games, I don't want to, like, I want to complete the collection. And this one, and I'm like, oh my god, I have the hardest one to find. I ended up buying it, and then that was iconic. And later on, again, in my archive video, special presentation, this is the game that's been in the movies, It Chapter 1 and 2, the new movies that came out. Introduced me to the Hollywood world, which is good, so that's very iconic, and now has prototype side art. If you want to see the story again, it's archived. Really cool. And then I'm like, well, now I'm going to start to collect more because I fully got the addiction. Had to have Mortal Kombat 2. It's my favorite of the Mortal Kombat still to this day. Love the game. That was 2014, and then I'm like, you know what, I'm going full tilt right into 2015, and this one was a killer. Ha! No pun intended. So I picked up a Killer Instinct original with the SD card already in it for the fast booting, more reliable. Has the original hard drive still in there, screwed to the side inside of a cabinet. Same individual, nice guy again, he was in his garage for years. He had them both because his kids liked them at the time and grew out of it. And that's a crazy pickup story with my cousin. If you want to see that, again, everything's archived, and it's had so much fun doing the videos. But yeah, that was a huge pickup. Killer Instinct 1 and 2, back and forth, 6 hours driving. Then I go right into it and I buy Street Fighter 3 with Third Strike. Because I want to collect the Street Fighters. And the interesting thing is, this was a really poor restore to one of my black eyes in the hobby. I overthought it. I didn't need to restore it that much. I kind of wanted to get to learn, because I was kind of getting like, hey, I'm going to be in it for the long haul. Why don't I just learn how to fix these. So, you know, I overthought of it, asked for advice, got some advice, sometimes not the greatest, but in the end of the day, it's my fault because I was, you know, I was nagging. So it works, but it's rough, and I'm gonna revisit that. But either way, and then we move on to getting a Neo Geo 6 slot. And what a great pickup. I love Neo Geo. So many stories and memories. Again, everything's archived if you want to see it. Love it. Remember them very well. Fond memories. And again, I'm a fighting game guy at the get-go. So as you can see, 2015 was, holy shit, fighting games, eh? So wow. Next we get to 2016. And that's when I pick up my Chulix cabinet with the Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, and that was a really cool pickup and restore. I mean, it's brand new, but modding in and whatever else was really cool. And now I have 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is a huge win as far as collecting all the Street Fighters. And next is 2017, which gets interesting because I get into pinball. I got my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Data East, my full pinball machine experience came to fruition. Like, I really wanted this one. I got help from a great friend who restored it, to help me restore it, and now it's beautiful. Then I got a Blast City, which I love and love. I still play often, and this has a lot of games. It has the Pi, it has Naomi 1 and 2, GD-ROM games, and others as well. And it plays even other systems, so I love that. Next I get the Hobbit LE. Now I start getting serious in you know, in the money as well. So 2017 was a pretty expensive year, but a great one. Next we hit 2018, where I pick up a beautiful restored Super Sprint. Still needs a little board work, monitor work. Get that done, but absolutely beautiful and restored. And again, so many fond memories. 3 brothers, 3 steering wheels. Playing that, you know, in the early 90s and late 80s. So it was great memories, and I love great at parties too. Next comes my first EM, which is Atlantis, the Gottlieb one, and a beautiful game. Got it from a great collector. Super great condition as well. I can't wait to restore it and you know, update the plastics and whatnot. Next we get into Swords of Fury. Beautiful game, one that is a great player's game, good for tournaments, good for a quick game. Amazing music. It's my second favorite music in pinball, and that's mainly why I got it. 2019 was a bit of a rough year personally. There was no game I did not buy one this year. That was 2019. 2020, I get a little back into it. I ended up getting Frogger, and I also got a very, I would say rare, especially in the condition it's in, Robo War. It's my favorite music in pinball, and that's why I ended up getting it. That's how much I love the music. I think it's the best in pinball. If you YouTube it, just Robo War Pinball soundtrack to check it out. It's amazing. 2021 was Bram Stoker's Dracula, a game that I remember back in Greece when I was a young teen, and played it when it first came out in the Greek islands, which is still love it today. I also got in 2021 an EM pinball machine that was a consignment deal with someone that knew me in the hobby, and I've talked to over the years, and we went pretty much halves on it, and I sold that. And then I also bought 2 Miss Pac-Man Galaga reunion cocktails. I did a light restore, very fun to get to know the cocktail. I've never worked on them, I did a bit, but beautiful cabinets. Went to buddies of mine, great home, great collectors. And then we come to 2022, which of course, excuse me, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles LE by Stern. Very proud to have the game. Doing more mods as we speak to it. It looks beautiful, it plays beautiful, and yeah, I'm very happy to have that. So that's the collection so far. I can't wait to collect more. I don't know when, but we'll see. And now, why don't we go have a smoke? Let's get back to the apartment, and I'm going to say my final goodbyes, and also to 10 years in the hobby, and also what is coming next. Well, I hope you guys liked the montage of the games I picked up and amassed over my 10-year tenure in the hobby. A lot of great memories, some not so great, but overall great experience in life that I've learned from. So why don't we spark it up? I'm gonna actually be having a cigar as a celebratory. It's kind of cool, 10 years. I've been thinking about it lately. Plus it's a good excuse to smoke. And have some Courvoisier. Cheers to 10 years. What an interesting journey it's been. It really has been. As you can see, and you heard when we spoke to Kevin about how it started, almost by accident, where I was told, you know, you can go and get these things, and I got enthralled as soon as I knew I can afford and also collect them, and you were able to do them. I only thought they were for vendors. So that was an explosion, and once I got one, I was hooked. It's a very addicting. But a few things I've been through. So if you're new to my channel or existing, some great moments and highlights of not only being in the hobby is, number one, I opened Top Tier in 2014. I started to do YouTube. Obviously, I'm on here now. I know I'm a small channel and growing. It's very niche. And I don't always have the best content. I understand in camera and whatnot. I know of a lot of improvements that are coming, sincerely. A few things have to be done before I can do that, though. So I hope you are enjoying them. Again, always please subscribe and let me know any feedback, because I do take it to heart. And I also do want to improve, but just there has been things hindering my forward momentum lately. And hopefully that's going to continue and come to fruition sooner than later. So Top Tier channel I have, that's been really fun, just categorizing, looking back, learning. Really cool things, if you haven't checked out, is my games were used for Hollywood production. Most notably is the It movies, the new ones, Stephen King's It and Chapter 2. So I was on set for those, which is cool. The first one, not so much. I pretty much dropped my game and it was done. But the second one, definitely I was on set. I met a lot of the actors. I helped them kind of play, James McAvoy and those, and you know, a lot of the Bill Hader, a lot of the celebrities, even the younger ones. It was like Finn Wolfhard, who played a young Richie. He was the one playing the Street Fighter 1. Now, in my special presentation videos, if you go through my archives, if you really want to get an understanding, because I do go an extensive how it all began, you know, a half-an-hour video. If you look at my special presentation, It, and you'll see the side art was Prototype. It was in the movies, and if you watch that scene in part 1 and 2 in the arcade, not only was I on set, but those are my games. So I'm very proud of that. A lot of cool memories and stories. There has been, right now, going back to YouTube, just on my notes here, I do have 777 subscribers at the moment. You know, 777, so hopefully that's good luck and a good omen moving into 10, going into year 11. I have a lot of ideas yet to be gone through, and cool segments. I just don't have the capabilities both on my camera and also my software and computer, but that's going to come a bit later. But a lot on my mind. But the honest truth is, I'm going to be slowing down a bit. There's been a lot of learned lessons through myself about the hobby. I like a lot of it, some of it not so much, but I've learned to cope with it and deal. Any crazy stories you guys have, let me know in the comments. It's been cool. It's been really, really cool. It's really taken over my conversation with people and my daily hobby. I'm either playing something every week, or I'm fixing something every week, or I'm doing something for YouTube every week, or seeing someone that's in the hobby every week. So it's very part of me. It's present. Mary, my wife, is also part of it. She's helped me on moves as well, both good and bad. Oh God. The stories that she would have. One day she even says, I'll sit down and give you even my version, which hopefully would be fun. But I don't want to ramble, guys. I mean, it's been interesting, to say the least. The future right now really is enjoying the games. I know I've been modding them. I do have a few more videos coming out. I have a few more videos coming out about modding BSD, modding turtles. Not too crazy, but really, really cool videos I want to do. Some instructional videos, maybe to help someone. I want to do a few, and I know I'll have a few top tier on tour videos as well in the near future. But right now, I'm not looking to buy a new game. I'm content the way I am, unless something crazy happens. Which, as soon as I say that tomorrow, I'm going to get a call. I already know. But I'm going to really take a break from it and really enjoy the games and just more enjoy things outside of pinball. I think I got a little too involved, got too close to the sun, and it wasn't the best look. So I'm like, you know what, let me step back. And I think I was getting just too, it was too emotional. But, and I'm a passionate guy. But that's it. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for taking the ride with me. Cheers to everyone that subscribed for all these years that were my number ones and my day ones. It's been a pleasure. I'm happy that I could have helped you. I know I, upset a few people as well, based on my hobbies and my attitudes towards things. It's not always intentional, but it's me. If you met me in person, it's no different. I don't hide behind the camera and act any differently in person. If one day we meet, but if there's any stories, like I said, you had, please subscribe. There's more coming out. But I'm going to be honestly taking a step back and slowing down and really just enjoying overall life and the hobby from a more distant angle at the moment, for honest reasons, and it's been really cool. Here's to the next 10 years. I hope you guys like the videos, and hopefully I've helped you over the years or entertained you in difficult situations. All the best, and thanks for checking out Top Tier, as always, and see you in the next 10 and the next step in my journey creating Top Tier Arcade, the way that it was visioned from the beginning.